Hi everyone, welcome back to the Nostalgic Dragon. Today a video on monsters. Why do we love monsters, or do we love monsters? There is no shortage of monsters when it comes to fantasy and mythology, and also actually science fiction too. Many monsters there. I want to elaborate a bit about the fact that there are so many monsters and why it's appealing for us. And I will do that with a few different things. First of all, I'm reading. I said this book. I shall see if I find a good copy on the web to show you on monsters. As you see, it's actually on Kindle, so a bit of a surprise since I have the usually physical books. And a natural history of our worst fears on monsters, and a natural history of our worst fears by Stephen T. Asma. And this is an overview of why we are creating monsters psychologically, why we create monsters from an evolutionary point of view, and also from maybe a political standpoint. You could say power over other people. Why are monsters created? I'm going to talk about this book today a bit for you, what it includes. I'm also going to show you a few monsters I have. Actually, I thought that was a bit, not necessary, since I know many of you probably have a lot of monsters in your bookshelf, or in the video games, or in the board games, or maybe even in your head, I suppose. Because that was the fact. I was trying to find a lot of monsters this morning in the books. Usually I have, not visual books, so I realized maybe I don't have so much to show. I have a few things though. So here is a quite scary, I would say. I don't want to meet this guy. And you see the rats. This is a rat monster from Oathsworn board game. Not a spoiler, by the way, because this is on the front cover. Very scary, right? Because this rat has obviously huge teeth, seems to be very bloody, a lot of scars and wounds, and actually from these wounds, these rats can creep out. So nothing you would like to meet, I suppose, in the forest. We have other kind of monsters here. This is the Tolkien Bestiary. This is a Swedish version. David Day. If you don't have it, please get it. I would say it's great. Not only if you like Lord of the Rings, but also if you like just, fantasy monsters. This is a good art book. And here we have the famous one, the Golem. Is he a monster, or is it not a monster? I mean, that's a big topic when it comes to monsters as well. What are monsters? Um, Many of you might know I'm reading The Witcher. Obviously, a lot of monsters here. Actually, many people think that the main character, Geralt, is a monster. He's a witcher, a monster hunter. So, seems to be a bit of a dehumanization going on in The Witcher. Some people in the world like to target groups. By doing so, they dehumanize them and call them monsters, for example. So monsters can be many things. It can also be the thing when we were small and we played with monsters, for example. Like board games is kind of playing, obviously, for adult people as well. Then we have, very classic monsters like this. This is the Fall of Light, Carcanas trilogy, Steven Erickson, obviously a dragon, right? So classic monsters, we have unusual monsters, we have monsters within, we have monsters created by humanity. Maybe all monsters are created by humanity. And then we have, really, really monstrous things like in R. Scott Becker's The Darkness Comes Before. Darkness Comes Before by R. Scott Becker. So there are many things where monsters occur. Monster has occurred since the dawn of humanity. I will tell you a bit about the book I am reading. And a few things I would like to mention. One thing the book takes up, I mean, at the fourth chapter, I will keep coming back to this book together with you. I hope you will like that. Um, is monsters part of our evolution? Because you can argue that it's a very good way to have monsters if you don't want your children or maybe friends or your community, whatever, to walk into the forest or go out late in the night and going by boat or anything like that, because there can be monsters in the water or monsters in the forest, so you shouldn't go there. So it has a kind of um, effect of not doing things that are dangerous for us. And the book talks about the fear of spiders, the arachnophobia. So sorry if someone is really scared of spiders, don't mean to scare you. Uh, but maybe this will be interesting for you. We will touch on psychology, fantasy, mythology, etc. in this video. So it's said that fear of spiders is evolutionary wired in human beings. One theory, I don't know if this is totally true, so you're welcome to criticize this. I just found this book interesting because I had problems finding books on monsters. So if you have advice for me on great books on monsters, the psychology behind it, please write it in the comments below. Um, there is a six-eyed sand spider in Africa, still existing, very venomous, and it said that the spider could have created this fear for spiders, because it threatened humanity. Humans could die of it. We also have snakes, of course, which is mentioned in the book. And the book also talks about Alexander the Great and the great adventures that you can read about, and that is obviously very exaggerated. But there are a lot of monsters in there, and they at the time were. People believed in this a lot. Example in ancient Rome and ancient Greece, they took it as a fact. So it's interesting. And humans, we tend to exaggerate uh, creatures we meet. Uh, we make them monstrous. We exaggerate the size or the why they are dangerous or how they looked, for example, from a psychological standpoint. Could be good to do that because you don't want to return to that place where you got this feeling of fear. One example, interesting, I think, if you are afraid of heights, for example, I'm not so, fond of heights, you tend to exaggerate the distance, it is said. So, I mean, if it's 20 meters, maybe you think it's 40 meters. If it's 5 meters, let's say it's 5 meters, you will say it's 20 meters. It's we can have use of doing that as humans if it's actually dangerous, but if it's not, of course, it creates problems for us psychologically as well. Monsters, I mean, you can argue that monster is something that is more dangerous than it really actually is. It could be the creature in the nature, it can be the forest itself, it could be other people, of course, living on our Earth. And the accounts from people traveling in Asia, or maybe they didn't do that at the time, I don't know. They exaggerated how Chinese people, how Indian people looked. They could have many feet, or many toes, or many heads, or they could be normal. The head could be reversed, for example. Many different strange stories are mentioned in this book. How the historian or the lore guy at that time exaggerated a lot of things. Maybe for entertainment as well, I suppose, because we all love monsters, maybe. So obviously, humanity likes monsters. It comes in many forms. And the monsters can be filled with a lot of things. It can be our own fears in the monster. It it can be and anxieties in the monster. We create something, we project something, we create this monster, or we think it's very nice to be with the monsters. As you know, I paint from time to time, so this made me think a lot on, why am I liking these monsters, painting them or reading about them in Malazan Book of the Fallen or The Witcher, for example. Or why do I do that? I don't know. I don't I don't intend to have, a therapy for myself on monsters, but maybe that would be interesting for all of us who like monsters. Why are we drawn to it? What does it mean to us? There are different kinds of monsters, as I said. It can be, fantasy monsters or mythological monsters. It could be monsters within the psyche. It could be real monsters, like we have all these detective dramas where there are serial killers or things like that. That's a kind of monster. So many kind of monsters. Maybe you come up with other ideas. Many monsters are maybe real animals from the past. We don't know. I haven't fact checked this book, so we probably need to do that. But as goes for entertainment for this video as well, they found things in China's teeth, maybe dragon teeth, who knows, because dragon is very much part of Chinese folklore. There is a chapter in the book about Cyclops, and they found skeletons of supposed Cyclops in Southern Europe, but then I read that maybe that was another kind of skeleton, I think elephant skeleton, and that looked like almost, it was like an eye in the middle of the forehead. So that's kind of monsters as well. We have the idea of that humans are monsters. Greeks and Romans considered almost everyone outside their ethnicity to be barbarians or to be monsters. So we have a lot of ways to describe and to experience monsters. We have monsters in mythology. Greek mythology, for example, very, very common with monsters. We have monsters also in religions, established religions. All religions have monsters of different kind. When there are monsters, I suppose there are heroes. There is a dichotomy, right? A relationship between heroes and monsters. So maybe we need monsters. Do we need monsters? I'm not sure. I think so. It's also good to have a hero who comes and saves the day, right? So fixes that. But maybe that complicates a bit nowadays because we have this shady fantasy. There are shady mythology too, especially the Greek, I would say. But then you have non-shady fantasy, for example, like Lord of the Rings. I think is very non-shady, at least in today's fantasy landscape. For me personally, monsters has always been exciting. Of course, when I grew up and together with friends, when I read Lord of the Rings, of course, but also played role-playing games. There were demons, vampires. That's another thing. We have the vampire. Classic monster. We have the werewolves as well, for example. We have all these monster imagery, and I mean, you can go to a museum, like we were at the Swedish National Museum, as I told you about a few videos ago. There are a lot of monsters there. So some people claim maybe monsters are for small kids. I don't agree. We all need these monsters for one kind or another. I think the monster can give perspective, I suppose, if we talk about fantasy monsters. In a world that sometimes can feel troublesome and scary, maybe if you have a monster that seems even scarier. So the world you live in, the real world, doesn't seem so scary. So I think that's a thing with monsters too. Um, and I have some monster cards here, by the way. So here we have a werewolf, like this. Yeah. So, and some monster seems to be more attractive for different people, like vampires, werewolves, Dracula, for example. Then you have the like the Balrog in the Lord of the Rings. You have this Baldur's Gate thing behind me here. Um, so I'm curious to hear about your relationship with monsters. Do you love monsters? Do you like monsters? Why do you like them? I don't intend to encourage you to delve too deep into this. Maybe you could. I mean, it has a lot to do with psychology. I think it has a lot to do with archetypes, like Jungian archetypes as well. If you really want to go that path to explore monsters, um, why you are interested in monsters or encouraged to read about monsters, you can learn a lot about yourself, I suppose. Um, I think the fact that yeah, there is a dialogue with Socrates and um, in that dialogue, yeah, he's asked if he believes in monsters, and if I remember right, he says he doesn't. It's just man-made because it seems like he's interested in the inner psyche. So I suppose the inner psyche as well can create monsters. Maybe that's the scary thing. I think that's what Stephen King does well with his books. A lot of monsters there, obviously, but the greatest fear we create is within ourselves. There is a passage in the Blood of Elves, The Witcher, that I read yesterday. If you have patience with me, I shall see if I find it. Yeah, here it is. So it is Ciri who's being taught of ghouls in Kaer Morhen, where they train witchers. And then the teacher says, when you know about something, it stops being a nightmare. When you know how to fight something, it stops being so threatening. I think that is, I mean, really an idea why we are interested in monsters, because maybe it learns us not to be so afraid of the dark or the scary, or all these hideous monsters that might be out there, but probably they are in our heads. So this was a short monster rant. I hope you enjoyed that. If you like the content here, please subscribe and like the video, of course. And I will put out a few videos this weekend, and that is a chat tonight with Derek and Justin's Epic Quest. They have a Malasan pod. Very ambitious one, I think. So it will be a pleasure to talk with them, and I hope you enjoy to listen to the video. And I also will have a kind of channel news tomorrow. I have a lot of upcoming conversations with other booktubers, so I hope you will like that too. So until next time, have a great day, and don't be afraid of the monsters. I think they are very useful for us. Bye. Thanks.